There are a lot of factors you need to consider. One is your proximity to your primary place of assignment. The first research I did was the affordable childcare I can get in Australia. Crime rates in most areas here are not crazy. Logan is quite big. Logan is a city council. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be tackling one of the most common questions I get on this channel, and it is, where do I rent my first house as a new immigrant in Australia? Let's jump right into it. First things first, location is very important, and I know that for anyone immigrating to Australia, the state you're going to be living in is one of the first things you know, because it's either you're coming as a student, so definitely you'll be residing in the state where your school is, or you're coming as a skilled worker. And for most skilled visas, you have your employer before you come in, and of course that determines the state you're going to live in. The only few people who have the options of choosing state are people who come in with maybe the 189. I'm not even sure how those visas work, or even if you're coming for a 491 or regional visas, you already know where you're going to, like state visas. But if it's a federal visa, which I think is it 189, I think you might not know the state you're going into. So in terms of states, right, if you're still contemplating what state should I go to, the bigger states are quite expensive, and that's what I have learned over time. So for say you're living in Sydney, you're living in Brisbane or Melbourne, those are the big cities. So they might be expensive compared to when you go to remote areas like Perth, like Tasmania and stuff like that. And there are many factors that comes into play when you're talking about how expensive different states are, because I've actually seen people who said that food was cheaper in Sydney compared to Perth. So there are a lot of factors that come into consideration, but what I've learned over time is that when you put the ballpark of cost of living, some of the smaller cities are quite cheaper compared to the big cities. So that addresses the state. In terms of other locations, especially when you've chosen the state, where do I live? For instance, I'm moving to Brisbane. There are a lot of factors you need to consider. One is your proximity to your primary place of assignment. So you're coming in on a work visa, what's the proximity or the drive time or the commute time to your place of work? Those are the things you need to consider. The other big factor is if you're coming alone, it is very easy for you to decide, oh, I'm going to live here because it's just easier for me. A lot of single people I know that work in my office, they live in the city, and it's just easier for them to, roll off their bed and take like 10 minutes walk to the office, or even 5 minutes walk to the office. But for someone like me, I came in with my family and I have kids to send to daycare, because at the time my daughter was under 5, so she was not of school age, and I have a son who needs to go to school. So there were a lot of factors we considered. One of the factors you need to consider is family daycare, childcare, school. Those are very important considerations you need to think of when you're planning on where you want to live. Personally, from my experience thinking about childcare, the first research I did was the affordable childcare I can get in Australia, and at the time we had a family daycare that a lot of Nigerians use, and she resided in Calamville. So that was what brought us to Calamville. My office is right in the heart of Brisbane CBD, but I lived in Calamville. Commute from my house via bus is 1 hour to CBD, or 45 minutes give or take, and drive is about 30 minutes. But remember, you can park in the city, so I need to commute via bus. So on the average, I need between 45 to 1 hour to commute to the city. But that was the best decision for my family at the time. When we moved on to start buying houses, we even moved further down, because buying in like outside in the city area is more expensive. So the further down you go, the cheaper the houses are. And now I still have about 1 hour commute to the office. So your location and proximity to your primary place of assignment is the first factor you should consider. Another thing you should consider when choosing a place to live is your access to public transport. A lot of people use public transport here, at least in Brisbane, that I know. Especially if you're going to the city, you need to go to different places that you don't want to drive to. Parking in Brisbane CBD personally is quite expensive and is on the average of $30 a day, depending on the time you want to get in and get out of the city. So you need to consider access to public transport. And if you're a parent like me, as you grow older, your children need to also take public transport, maybe to school and all of those things. So it's very important you consider that. So your proximity to available amenities is very important. School, public transport, and all of those things are things you should consider. Next on my list is your budget. What is your budget? What are you working with? Living in the city is close to a lot of amenities, right? But it is pricey compared to what you'd pay if you move further down from the city. So you also need to consider your budget. How much am I willing to pay? The further down you come, the cheaper it is. You know, you have to put in all these factors. What's my budget? What am I willing to pay for rent? What am I willing to pay for public transport? So you need to compare all those costs and make your own personal decision. Another important factor to consider is safety, security. You need to go online and read reviews about the crime rates. I would say from my experience, the crime rates in most areas here are not crazy. Again, I live in Brisbane, and one of the most popular places where the crime rate is quite high that you'd see in most news is Logan. And when you talk about Logan is quite big. So don't just people just say, oh, Logan for hook, line and sinker. Hook, line and sinker. I don't know how they say that thing. But in saying that, Logan is quite big. Logan is a city council. But when they are talking about Logan, make sure you read the part of Logan that they are actually referring to. I know of Logan Central. I know of Woodridge. So those are the kind of places where the crime rates are. But before you rent a house, make sure you do your own personal research. It is very important to invest in research to know the area you are about to live in. Again, when I talk about budget, you also need to consider how much space do I need. Do we need a 1-bedroom house to start? Do we need a 2-bed? Depending on the number of your family and what you want for yourself. So these are other factors you also need to consider in choosing a place to rent. Again, you need to think about the community you want for yourself. And this is just thinking, okay, I want a family-friendly community. I want a community that is close to school. And these are some of the factors we actually put into consideration when buying a house. We wanted a community that is close to, their schools. The kids can walk to school. And it's been amazing. With the current place where we live, there's it's very family oriented community. So that's another thing you should put into consideration. To be honest, all of the information you need is online. Just search. If you're eventually able to pinpoint a place, be it in Sydney, in Melbourne, anywhere you're going to, just search online, read about the community. Even when they put the advert on realestate.com.au, most times they will tell you all the facilities available, the amenities, so you can put all of this into consideration. In conclusion, remember that finding the right place takes time. Don't rush and invest in research. Soon enough, you'll be able to find a place that feels like home. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.